everyone. Welcome to Work Love Wednesday. Sam Smeltzer here for Work Love Wednesday. It is time for Work Love Wednesday. Good morning, Facebook. Getting Instagram up. Ooh, and Instagram's up too. Awesome. Good morning. It is 7:49. I am late this week. That's because I was diddy-daddling around. And you can tell because look, my hair's still drying. Usually it's dry by the time I hop onto Work Club. Let's scrunch the curls together to make. I teach at the local college, and one of my students told me that I don't have curly hair. I have scrunchy hair, which I guess is technically true. So anyways, so yeah, let's get this party started since I'm already 4 minutes late, right? So I guess let's start off. I mean, last week I couldn't help myself. I was coming fresh off of training from the weekend, starting my medical Qigong training. And the first training seminar was really about developing a practice for yourself, talking about exercises and really introducing you to the concepts that are fundamental to Qigong. I got these lights from the blinds, which I will welcome because the sunshine is awesome. But I talked about how essentially in Qigong, there's three aspects to it. It is purging, so getting rid of stagnant energy that we've stored that we don't need to store or hold on to. It can also be known as turbid energy or yuck energy. So that's how I think about it in my brain. Number two is tonifying, so basically increasing the level of energy or qi. And then the third one is regulating it, so helping the energy go to where it needs to go to take care of what it needs to take care of. Essentially, that's what it is, and at least in Sam's world of understanding. So I've been on this personal mission or task to practice every single day my own personal practice, primarily because my teacher had shared that he kept saying this, if you do Qigong, if you make it a daily practice, it's going to change your life. He doesn't really say in what context, so I'm assuming changing it for the better, but I guess it could go in the opposite direction. Or change it in a way that you don't really want. So, but I want to give it a try. I want to see what happens if I focus on having the, increased energy that I need to do the things that I want to do in my life. And that's kind of been the sole purpose of my health journey as I go back to the beginning. It was never about, losing weight is nice. I don't think anyone really complains about that. But for me, it was having the energy, being so passionate about so many things and then realizing that I couldn't do them because I was too tired for simple things like hanging out with my kids, to playing with my kids, to going out and doing things that I love, wanting to go to the amusement park every single day. I mean, it got to the point where I was actually self-conscious about going to the amusement park, especially when you would get on rides with all the safety bars and things. I personally just was very self-conscious about how the bars would fit on me and how I felt. And that's something that I've always really loved as a kid throughout. So those little things started to take a toll and wanting to be able to do more of what I love. That's really what I was aiming for. And that's probably why my obsession with energy was so strong. And it continues to be. I mean, energy in general and the energy that things around us give off is always been something that has fascinated me. Surrounding yourself with things that provide joy is really something my mother taught me from a very young age, and it's really important to me. So a big part of when you're starting this Qigong practice is the purging element. And the purging is huge because of the fact that if you haven't been working on yourself energetically in any fashion, there's stuff that's just locked up and blocked there. And that's something that I have really believed in very hardcore in the last 5 years, but something that I think I've always kind of known, that we carry so much around with us. And I think that we're taught that we need to carry it with us because it makes us stronger, when in fact I have come to believe that we don't need to carry the burden of it. We need to carry the lessons from the experience, and we need to do what we need to do to process it and ensure that we can take away from it what we need to. Whether that is with a release like the gym, whether it is through a tactic like journaling or a self-reflective practice, or it's with talking it out through friends, or it's seeking out a mental health professional like a therapist or a counselor to talk through those scenarios. But I think we're meant to work through those specific scenarios and identify what lessons are revealed about ourselves. And so when I think about, all the crap that we go through in our lives, all the chaos, all the things that happen to us because we believe that they happen to us because we're emotionally invested in them, I believe that they're happening to teach us something, to reveal us something about ourselves. This was a concept that was really hard for me to get behind because I didn't want it to be true. And the more and more I've realized that it is true, is that, the things that drive us bananas, the things that really hurt us, are truly a mirror. They're basically reflecting back to us. We want to shift it to a place of blame. We want to make it someone else's fault. However, the ability for that scenario to deeply impact us is a mirror reflecting back, allowing us to see things clearer and deeper, even in a scenario of heartbreak. So I'm not saying that, sometimes our typical reaction to heartbreak is that we have to shut down, we have to withdraw, we have to put up more barriers so it's harder for people to get there. But instead, and I talk about this in the first book, and this is one of the lessons from my first love in high school, is that having the ability to love and what that felt like is something that I treasure and I value. And it was something that I'm going to want in my life again, not to find ways to not ever have it happen again. The ability that someone could hurt me so deeply meant that I was able to establish such a beautiful connection with them and allow that to happen. And so everything, no matter the good, the bad, the ugly, is a mirror to reflect back of something that we can look at. And it doesn't mean you have to own everything in that scenario, but I do believe that we can own at least 50%. There's 50% of every situation that we're bringing to the table. And having that awareness of it is key. And even though you might have the other party who doesn't want to meet with their 50%, and that's why conflicts and things just continue to grow the way that they do, you can do the work that you need to get to that 50%, have that closure, and move forward and make yourself stronger and continue on the path that you're meant to continue down. So I think that's just really powerful. And so this whole idea about purging energetically and this concept of Qigong really fascinated me because it was talking about using exercise and movement and sound to basically help purge these things that historically, or in my experience, has only really truly been done through things like journaling, through therapy, and this whole idea that there's a way to get that energy to just move. Yes, you have to experience and process them, but through a different kind of facet. And sometimes, and what I'm starting to learn is that sometimes the way we're processing them is just having to feel them or recognize them, because we get so good as we're on our way to adulthood of identifying things and suppressing them and them up and shoving them somewhere very quickly because we want to minimize the time that we can feel them. Because it's very quick for us to use a feeling as a symptom to say, oh my gosh, that hurts and I don't want to hurt, so I'm going to shove it somewhere, or I'm going to shift it to anger. We have these coping strategies that we learn as a result of some of these really big monumental moments that we experience. And so that's kind of how we live our life. We're basically geared towards reacting in several different kinds of scenarios. And so this purging is basically inviting to bring all that back up, and with the hope of having a really great energetic flow, which allows you to be really truly connected to whatever you believe. For me, it is a higher power. It is, I'm a Christian. It's Lord Jesus Christ, it's God, and being connected to have that meaning, which, despite whatever your belief system is, at the core, we all want to know that we are providing some sort of meaning in the world, whether that is personally, or it is professionally. But we're all looking at trying to add that meaningfulness, or identifying how we kind of give back. So let's talk about outcomes and side effects, because this is kind of what I wanted to update on, because I started with this kind of Qigong diary per se that I started last week, kind of unconsciously, because I was just so passionate. But now I've gone a week through doing a practice every single day, which I'm like, pat on the back, I'm committed doing it. And that's because I feel a physical difference. I feel lighter. And I think that's the biggest thing ever, is that I feel so much lighter when it's done. I do feel more energized. So I have been doing it. I have a tendency to do it when I would typically want to take a nap or veg out and watch TV. And I will see that after my practice, I actually feel more energized. So that's pretty cool. More energized and lighter. But the other thing that has happened is that, and I knew that this was going to happen, that things are just bubbling up, things that I haven't thought about in a very, very long time. In particular, when you're purging the liver, it holds anger and jealousy, which I know that those have been trigger points for me. Anger, jealousy, and irritation, which those bubble up for me a lot. Randomly, but I never associated to maybe energy stagnation in my liver. And so purging the liver, I expected that. I'm surprised of some places that are bubbling up of sources of anger that I didn't think that I would generalize myself as an angry person. But there are some things that I have realized that I am angry about, primarily around this idea of how I got detoured, or per se, my path took me down the country drive. I think we did an episode where we talked about that, but basically the long, beautiful drive, which wasn't so beautiful for me, to a place where I am, where now I'm back to rediscovering myself. And I can't help but sometimes wish that I could go back and stay on that path and be farther along. And then that's where the source of jealousy and things come along, when I look at people who are farther along, where I feel like I could have been there. And our path is our path, and it happens for a reason. I know, and I'll totally own it, that if whatever I am working on myself now, the tools that I'm using, if I had tried to do it back then, I don't think I would have been ready. I don't think I would have been successful at it. I don't think I would have been open to it. And so everything truly does happen when it's supposed to happen, when we're ready for it. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm angry about it, that there's anger that has been stored there and held there. And it bubbles up as jealousy and sometimes irritation. I was just talking to my husband about LinkedIn, my LinkedIn network. And this is like no fault of anybody, but it's a place where people promote their businesses. People brag about their accomplishments. It's a huge trigger place for me right now. So me processing this anger of not being where I want to be, and really wanting to place blame on certain individuals as to why I'm not there. That is like a feeding frenzy for my anger and my irritation and my jealousy scrolling through LinkedIn. So I've been moderating that. The other thing that I think is interesting, and I knew that this was going to happen, and this is something I was taught very early on by just starting personal development, and we've talked about it in an episode of Work Love already, is that as you shift your energy, as you work on your energy, as you work on yourself, you're working on your energy, you will start giving off a frequency that interacts with people differently. When you're changing your frequency, those that you typically hang around are either going to love that new frequency or maybe not so much. And so this was a hard lesson for me before, because this whole concept of people might just disappear. They might not be there. And there might not be any logical reason why. And it could just be because you're just not energetically compatible anymore. And so maybe so incompatible that you feel like oil and water, like you can't mix, you can't be around each other. And that might not be from you feeling that, but others. And so realizing that as much as people are triggering me, that I can be a trigger for others as I'm doing this work is something to be really mindful of. This past week, I've had a couple of scenarios where people have passive aggressively, not directly came at me, but enough specifically that I knew that it was me that was causing a trigger. And it's painful and it's hurtful, but also knowing that it's all part of the process. And so doing personal and professional development, even doing leadership development, I think people significantly underestimate how much of a shift you have to do personally that ripple sends around you. It will ultimately attract those that you want to surround you, but it is a bumpy road while those who decide they don't want to be around you kind of vacate, and the relationships that you've built up to that point, no matter how strong or how significant they are, can literally disappear in a matter of days, or drag on over a couple of months. This is something that I've been experiencing over the last 4 years. I've come to accept it and, send love to people as they've moved on. It still hurts. It still upsets me. But at the same token, I've really kind of taken a couple steps back and realized that, we all cross each other's paths when we need each other the most. And it doesn't mean that we're all meant to be in each other's paths forever. We're there to help make each other stronger, and then we move on, and that makes room for the next group of people that are supposed to make their way. And it's this constant kind of evolution. And you'll find some spiritual best buddies who will be there for life, and some who are just part of the path. And so that's really where I'm at right now. So I'm in the middle of energetic purging. I'm in the middle of bringing up a lot of anger linked to really just kind of a high level of sadness and doubt. And all of it is coming up in so many different ways of things that I thought that I had processed and taken care of, and then found out that that's not true. So this week, be mindful of others and how your energy might be impacting them, especially if you are on the path of doing some really cool personal, professional development work, and realizing that sometimes things that might come off as hurtful to you is just people, Brene Brown said it the best in Rising Strong. People are showing up at their best with what they got. And knowing that they're showing up at their best right now will shift that perspective to know that, you're doing your work and it's causing waves. People are feeling it. You're making an impact, even though you're not physically trying to interact with that person. Being around you, being even in your social media channels will cause people to feel things. And they have a right to process them and heal them just like anybody else does. And just take that and sit with it and use it as a mirror to reflect on yourself. Because, sometimes we can't draw closer with those people who don't want to meet us there, and they're not ready. That's just what it is. If you're interested about this Qigong, I want to share that experience with all of you. And so Every Tuesday and Thursday during lunchtime, we'll be doing a 45-minute practice, and then also from 1 to 1:30, sharing with you the purging practices that I am using that's causing this healing. So it's $5 a class. They start tomorrow afternoon, and make sure that you register at leadershipisart.com. And I hope to see you there. But have a great week, everybody.